Hey there, welcome. Today I'm sharing 3 summer flower pages for my sketchbook, each with a different mixed media twist. There's nothing earth-shattering about them except that they were a beginning. What makes them fun is how different they are. One is mostly painting, one blends painting with some easy mixed media, and the third doesn't even require a paintbrush. Let's get into the layers together. The inspo for the first one came from a picture of the first cosmo that bloomed in my garden this summer. If you've ever planted anything from seed, you know how exciting that can be. I used a pencil to outline the petals exactly as I saw them in the picture. I'm taking each petal one by one and drawing the shape while doing my best to keep the placement just as I see it in the photo. Now let me point out, I do not draw this fast, and as a matter of fact, I do not do anything fast except eat, but I'm working on that. So in the interest of keeping this video interesting and easy to watch, I've sped up the timing 2 times as fast as me, except where it's obviously much faster than that. I also cut out some of the less interesting parts and obvious repetition. So a favorite photo on your phone can be all you need to get started. Sometimes I tape my edges, sometimes I don't. I chose a background color without really thinking about what color I wanted to make the flower. I knew I wasn't going to do pink. Actually, I'm not even sure I had thought about it at this point, but anyway, this is a background color, a color that I just love. And normally when I'm doing mixed media, I do the entire background first. I'm not good at leaving white space and outlining stuff. It's just kind of not my favorite thing to do. Sometimes in art, you have to do a process that you don't love as much to get to the part you do love. And I have found a sketchbook is a great way to figure those things out. I did paint over all the stems that I sketched in, but here I did leave the white because, well, you'll see in a minute. Of course, I couldn't resist building a little texture with the paint in the background. I realize this is starting to give Christmas vibes, and that is likely due to a subconscious obsession. This is straight cadmium red, and I'm just blocking in the petals and solidifying their shape. The green outline is already giving me a nice little shadow edge on these, which I kind of like. And keep in mind at this point, I'm not really executing a plan here. I'm just following the creative flow from my inspiration photo. I'm just reacting to what's happening on the page. At this point, I'm not really looking at my inspiration photo anymore. I'm not trying to replicate it. I haven't completely set it aside. I'm still referring to it. It's still a great tool for clues about how to shade and highlight my flower. And eventually, I really won't be referring to it anymore at all. I'm just moving with what's going on here in my sketchbook. So here's a perfect example of that. The flow of the flower kind of stopped for me here. And I also was excited to do these fluffy, wispy leaves that cosmos have. It's my favorite part of a cosmo flower is the leaves. So I just jumped right in and started playing with these. Again, my Christmas subconscious was kind of taking over for a minute, and I had to very consciously pull myself out of that and try to make these a little wispier than a spruce pine Christmas tree. I think I kind of got there a little bit. Studying and practicing in your sketchbook is just a great way to work these kinds of things out before you start a piece that is planned and that you do have an objective for on a canvas. And everything you do in your sketchbook is going to influence what you do outside of it. So even though this is really, other than sharing it with you here, this is not something that will ever really be shown. I don't sell my sketchbooks, but these are part of my process, part of my growing as an artist. Art is not always instant gratification. As a matter of fact, it's usually not. Every process takes time, but it's time well spent. I think on social media we see far too much of the end result or the product of the growth. And what I want to show here on this channel is the growth process. And let's get there together. Let's grow together, because we never stop learning and growing. Okay, I've gotten all that energy out with all those leaves, and I'm ready to tackle this flower. So let's talk tinting and shading. Tinting is when you add white to a color to lighten it. Shading is when you add black, or you can also shade by adding the color that is complementary to the color you're using. And a complementary color is one that's exactly opposite of your color on the color wheel. Green and red happen to be complementary colors, so I'm using the green to shade my red. Let me know in the comments if you've ever done a scale study in your sketchbook of shading and tinting. Again, there's nothing precise happening here. I'm just trying things and seeing what happens. Every action leads to a result. And then I just respond to that result with another action. When it comes down to it, that's all we really do as creators. We take an action, we get a result, and then we respond to it. And then we grow and we learn something else. And everything we learn, everything we do informs what we're going to do next. So as I'm talking about this and looking back on it and sharing this with you, I think I just realized something about myself as an artist and why I love mixed media. Here I'm done painting the flower and I'm getting ready to do the center, and I'm thinking, I don't really know how I want to paint that. So I turned to mixed media. It's easier to cut up shapes and build something. Maybe it's my jewelry background, I don't know. But I just decided to make something dimensional for the middle, which I don't usually do in my sketchbook, honestly. I'm using a little gel medium to adhere this, and I'm just placing them until they kind of look a little bit like the center looked in the photo, and was actually kind of happy with that. Once that was done, I still felt like I wasn't completely done yet. I added a few paint party style white highlights, which is very much in my comfort zone. I tinted my green and played with the leaves a little bit more, and shaded my green with the red to bring the stem out just a bit. I do love a clean edge revealed by tape, don't you? Okay, we're done with the cosmos. Let me know what you think. If you're still with me, you are awesome. I went with a straight true blue background. Actually, I think this is Royal Navy, but it is so rich and beautiful. And I had to cover the whole page because I just did. I wanted that deep blue background. And in a minute, you're going to see the importance of leaving white space, which I typically do not do. A sketchbook exercise like this is a great place to try out a new stencil, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm intentionally leaving the middle of the square a little bit uncovered because I thought that'd be kind of cool to see how that worked out. And sometimes we have to reposition our stencil to finish up a page. Does this background say picnic to anyone? There's my subconscious coming out again, I guess. The inspiration for this flower came from a nearby garden that I see daily when I walk, and I wanted to make the photo bigger, so I just blew it up on my computer and printed it out. I'm doing the same thing here that I did with the Cosmo, where I am just transferring the shape as I see it, but this time I'm just using my brush to sketch and lay it out. And now you're going to see why leaving white space can be beneficial, because here I am building up the white, like really building it up to block out my checkerboard background that's underneath. That's the beauty of acrylic paint versus watercolor. For watercolor, you can't go back to white, but with acrylic, you can. I continue to both shade and tint the daisy, much like I did the Cosmo. One cool thing I got to play with the daisy is the fact that it's white. It was actually reflecting the sky. So in the photo, you could actually see a little blue in the petal. This also happens when I'm kayaking and sketching or painting in the marsh. The water is actually kind of brown and not super clear, but the sky reflects and makes it look blue in places sometimes. So it's fun whenever you get an opportunity to play with light and reflection without being too fussy about it. Eventually, the layers I built up did in fact cover the checkered background, so I finished up with white, and I covered a lot of the blue tinting and the shading that I did. So in the end, we have a white daisy, but it's not a flat painting. It actually has a little depth, which is why I love layers. They build depth. For the center, I just took some straight antique gold. I love the antique gold by Deco Art. It's kind of a go-to. I tinted it, and then I used it straight to do the center. By this time I had reached my painting threshold, so I cut out some paper to make the stem and leaves. Are you seeing a pattern here? Do you have a pattern? Do you have a threshold for how long you can sit and actually try to paint something before you have to do something else? If so, you are definitely my people. ADHD and mixed media for the win. So what do you think of the daisy? This last background I did using a catalyst. Now there's a tool called a catalyst. This is not one of those. It's a Mod Podge tool, but I'm using it as a catalyst. And a catalyst is just anything really that moves the paint around on the paper. And I absolutely love this. I love mixing more than one color. I only used one here. I find my brain allows me to leave white space when I use the catalyst. I think it's because it looks finished somehow more than if you did it with a brush. It's like unfinished that looks finished. I love it. And here's some Nova Color paint. I absolutely love Nova Color paint. If you haven't tried it, I highly, highly recommend it. I'm just stamping here on top of my catalyst background using one of my favorite fern stamps. Again, I have no plan. I'm just completing this page. I'm just following through on letting my brain rest while I have some creative fun. I think stamps and stencils are great for beginning painters because you have an outline that you can elaborate on and play around with. Let me know if you've ever tried that or if you want me to sometime show you what I mean by that. I'm just using the hydrangea part of the stamp and doing something different for the leaves. I have a variety of silk leaves that I love printing with. I'm not overthinking the placement. I'm just doing what looks good to me and trying things to see if they look good. Sometimes the trick with stamping is knowing when to stop. I think I tend to push that a little bit more when I'm working in my sketchbook, which is not a bad thing. And here's a good example of that. This lace butterfly applique that I have been saving to stamp on something didn't actually work the way I thought it would to begin with, but I went back with a more contrasting color and used a brayer for a little bit better result. Again, the whole action reaction thing. I kept going even though it never really went exactly the way I wanted. I even painted over it with gold paint, which didn't turn out great. And so I moved on to some metallic luster paints that I love from Deco Art just because they're fun and they made me feel good. They didn't work out as great either, and that's okay. I finished with a little pen work. I love making marks with metallic pens, but I'm not showing all the process here, but it is so therapeutic. I still wanted a little more contrast. I finally ended up with a good old-fashioned Sharpie. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to hang out and sketch with me again soon. And remember, we don't need more time to create. We just need the freedom to create the way that works best for us.